folks. So over the past 4 or 5 days, I have gone around and I've notified each paid team that there's a funding issue and we simply can't afford to fund all three teams. Choosing to fund one team now puts the other two teams at risk, and we realistically just can't deem what's essential and what's not, right? It's not fair to put them all in that position just to fund one team when we could simply take a pause. The quant team are working currently without pay anyway. They have been for like 2 weeks. So they can backdate the pay, right? There's no issues there, and they can carry on working like they already have. So I voted no on the basis of what's in this tweet and the fact that I had notified them, and I left my vote until the last minute and tried to give them all the benefit of the doubt that they would figure out some way to reduce their costs together as three teams getting paid to overcome this. But this just wasn't the case, and I had what you could perceive as a sit down, right? And I was given this response.
Our long game, so yeah, funding for this chain, right? I mean, what does anyone do when they got to pay their utility bills or any bills for that matter? They go get a job, they go find work, they find something. And I think that as a community is what we're going to need to do. Find some means to bring in additional funding to cover the operating cost of this chain, because it's a responsibility we took on the minute we said, goodbye TFL, we want to own this chain. Now it's time that we as a community own that.
So there you go. You've heard exactly what I was told, is that the community is the issue here. We need to find ways to create incentives to bring more funding to the chain and to the developers. Now, my proposal, which was passed, has been completely deviated from, which would have reduced the overall running cost, right? We'd have chain owned stuff. They're saying, right, that we are an independent community owned chain, but we're not. And TFL still provide us with legacy infrastructure. Now, the infrastructure is completely down across board, and I'm not using their infrastructure because I just don't trust them. I've never trusted them ever since the whole TR debacle. That's my own personal opinion, so I'm just sitting on my hands, right? There's a lot of us that stand in that same position, right? And you're simply just not going to go and use that. If we had all our own chained owned assets that were backfed into this governance and we actually owned them as a community, we wouldn't be paying for them. We're renting infrastructure from these people, right? And their solution is go out and get a job. You go in, you bring more funding for these developers to make sure that there is an extra 1.2 billion to be able to pay them all. And they were just going to see how it was going to pan out. So like I said, I put my vote in at the utmost last minute, and I'm one of many different validators that voted no on this. There's Strath Cole, Jesus is Lord, and loads of other people had voted no. The no's have outweighed the yeses, which means it hasn't passed. Does that mean, right, I'm against the USTC repeg? Absolutely not, right? The funding's a real issue. They were given time, they were notified. Their solutions are not adequate. I believe it shouldn't be put to the community to come up with funding, right? It shouldn't be like this. We're in a very precarious position where the chain's dying and these teams are just continuing to take. I'm not responsible for other validators' votes. I'm a small gear in a very big machine that's very poorly oiled. And, this is what consensus is all about. This is why we have governance, and this is why governance is law, right? Because when your spend proposal gets rejected, so you don't get funds, I guess it was law then. There's so many if, buts and coconuts at the moment, right? And this funding issue is real. Like I said, it's all right now. Okay, there's going to be no dramas now, but next month and the month after, there are going to be dramas when none of these teams can get funded and they all start fighting it out for a free-for-all of who's going to get funding and who's going to liquidate the USTC out of the wallet to further dump the USTC price. Now, realistically, with everything that's gone on over the past 24 hours, we've had the Candice hack, accident, rug pull, whatever you want to call it, happen. And, there's just so many signs right now that are screaming at us, we need to stop walking these paths, making these mistakes, and then be like, oh, we should learn from this. And then we don't learn from it. We build another DEX. We don't get it audited. We get third-party developers to get on board with it, as to which they can be privy to, SSH keys and things like that. So this, for me, what I'm seeing right now is actually something that's really positive, right? If the USTC quant team are so adamant they're going to repeg this within the next month, right? They shouldn't have any problems with backdating a couple weeks worth of pay. Taking, this could take 24 hours, it could take a week, depending on what these three teams do. But I think this is a strong signal that's actually being sent out now, that the community, the ball's in your playing court right now, folks, because you have the ability to ensure that teams are doing what they should be doing. Funding should be going to where it should be going, because I support this repeg and we should be giving it our 100%. This is why I've stated time and time again, we need to remove the Oracle rewards pool, USTC distribution, period. Replace it for Lunar Classic. In the meantime, yes, we're going to be draining it a little bit more than we were before, but we'll be giving the repeg the best shot, but you're not seeing that. And like I said, right, I notified Hexagon, I notified the L1, I notified Redline, and it's just like the final 2 hours leading up to the end of that proposal, I was being lobbied in private by people to vote yes, and saying that because I voted no, I'm the one who stopped it. It's just me. It's all my fault, and I'm responsible for this. And, that's not fair for developers to say that to me. Like I said, I'm one person out of all of the people that voted no and no with a veto. I'm one person, one validator. It's not fair to go around doing that. I'm very upset with the amount of time that is being spent in Twitter Spaces and the fact that there's issues with the Oracle rewards pool. But guess what, right? That doesn't bother me. What bothers me is there's going to be 1.7 billion LUNC available, and we need around 3 billion, right? Give or take. Once the fees get deducted out, it's not going to be that much. So, it's all down to how much they put in this time, and we just can't afford it. And like I said, you fund one team now and you risk not being able to fund the L1 or Hexagon. You risk them all going at each other's throats and making everything so much more worse in a month or so, instead of just taking this pause now and getting everything aligned, getting corrected, and then moving forward together and everybody compromising and meeting at the middle. At the end of the day, the chain's dying, the price is dying, everything's going down, and we're paying out more and more LUNC. This,
we just got to freaking for this chain, right?
Not okay.
What does anyone do when they got to pay their utility bills or any bills for that matter? They go get a job.
You go get a job. No, that's not okay. It shouldn't be down to this community. And I've seen that nodes are like, oh, we're going to be sending all of our funding to the USTC team. This can be resolved in a couple of days, or it could be resolved in a couple of weeks, or it could be resolved in 24 hours. But honestly, right, as a validator, I have a responsibility to ensure that funding is going to where it needs to go. And we're doing these things correctly, and we can continue to fund the chain. If we look at what's going on around us, Luna just voted for the same thing with Confio. A total funding halt completely. Is what's happening now a funding halt? No, this is a breather, right? The ball is in the community's court to now address these situations and send a signal to other teams saying, hey, you need to start addressing these things. Because to me, right, to vote on that proposal, there should honestly be in there that this is going to affect funding, and funding this proposal puts the other two proposals at risk, because it seems like key information that everybody has played ignorance with. And they've all done this. And like I said, I notified the quant team, and, not any response, no resolutions or anything like that. Just sort of, we're going to wing it. We're going to go with the flow. We're going to hope for the best. And that's it. And then nothing to any of my issues until, an hour towards the end, and I'm being lobbied and my inbox being spammed and, telling that I'm the bad person, I'm doing everything wrong, when realistically I'm trying to save this blockchain money. I'm trying to give the community and the blockchain control instead of these developers consistently controlling us time and time and time again. I'm up for a repeg, right? We've been in this for a year and God knows how long. We're not silly, okay? We're not stupid, and we're not going to be treated like morons anymore. And I think that's becoming more and more clear. What I want to see, right, is these top validators start to do their jobs, right, and actually lead and start educating people as to what's going on. Because the white paper that has been released by the quant team, there's a tool you can use to check if ChatGPT has messed around with something. That whole thing's written by ChatGPT, and it's just really worrying that there's no addressing of the Oracle rewards pool. But like I said, right, even with all of that, I didn't have an issue. I just had an issue with this funding. You know, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to understand that if we've only got 1.7 billion and we need 2.9 billion, there's not enough to fund all three teams. Like I said, it's not rocket science. Like I said, you know, these sorts of pauses, right, they could bring so much to this blockchain, and it can give us the opportunity, right, to actually outline work correctly. Because at the moment, these teams are actually saying that they're not binding contracts. You know, it doesn't outline anything like work-wise. And myself and Straff were even speaking about this, and even Strafe Cole's node voted no on this. So he's one of the people that actually is, you know, understanding what's going on. I've probably said, you know, a lot of times. That's what happens when you're listening to people who say that over and over again. Honestly, if you were doing the drinking game, you would have been hammered. You'd have been in hospital. If someone like Strathcole was saying simply no, it sends big signals. He's a tiny node. He doesn't gain anything from that. He only has to lose from that. And it's the same as me, right? All of this just is an angle for the USTC team to be like, you know, he's a bad guy. He's stopping funding. It's all his fault. And that shouldn't be the case. There should be this mature attitude that looks at this and goes, okay, so maybe funding is an issue. We should probably address this. It's just, no, it's all their fault. Throw our toys out of the pram and act totally immaturely about it and start spreading FUD and stuff like that, which is really, really annoying, because ultimately all of these current issues, right, stem down to you not being able to use anything currently, right? All nodes abstaining to things, and like going from no to abstain and being on the fence about things, wanting to lead, not wanting to lead. And it's like, you've got all this voting power, bro. What are you doing with it? Are you helping this blockchain, or are you just sitting on the fence each time? Like, are you just here for rewards? What is going on? And everybody seems to think this is personal. Hell, HCC, this is personal, you know, gaslighting me and stuff. And it's simply, I'm here for the blockchain. I'm here for the greater good of the blockchain. And that's what this vision, United Vision's all about, that me and Strafe got together. We're working on the first part of this, which is the dynamic commission module, which is the first thing that needs to be addressed. All nodes put a proposal up for something similar to this. So you would probably think they would support something that is going to balance out the voting power, and hopefully we can get more new validators in that can actually build, get rewarded, and, you know, grow into bigger nodes that can have say, have sway, and build on this blockchain, because we're seeing different nodes up and coming. I think one recently is the 1% max fee. They've just released a swapping module, and they've just released it's a Kepler wallet system that people can use. It's more or less a third-party app for wallet infrastructure. And it's interesting to see that someone like that, who's not actually making really much money from their node, is building stuff for the blockchain. And it's like, wow, you know, you've got another validator that's doing something. It's really good to see that. So there are good things going on. And like I said, folks, the ball is actually in your court now. The community have got time to take pause, address this situation, go do your own research, right? Go to Moonrunners, go check it all out, go to the dashboard, look at the community pool, see how much, right, you get in commission per block. Then do the maths per block, how many blocks until October 31st, and boom, you can see that it comes up with 1.7 billion, and we need like 2.9. It's just not happening. We needed this pause. We need the community back in control, and we need developers to start respecting the system and not just winging everything and hoping for the best. Folks, stay safe, stay humble, stay aware. Beware of scammers, doppelgangers, all of that stuff, especially with the Candice thing going on. Hack, rug, admin, whatever. It happened, and we should prevent these things. But always just be careful, okay? There's a lot of people who want to drain liquidity off this blockchain. They want to move it off to different places. They want to use it to build dexes, and just stay safe. Catch you in the next one, folks.